So I mean, where we came from, I'm gonna be honest, if you want to go deep into it, I guess my father invested a lot more of the money into like my brother, just because like, gender inequality, stuff like that. If
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
get too deep, yes. But that was very predominant in my household. So my brother kind of got a lot of the funds. He played soccer, and I just kind of like, girl in the family. So I actually ended up taking it seriously, and they invested money into me actually my 12th grade
Oh,
senior
wow,
year.
late.
Yes, it was 1,000%, like a divine experience if you want to be 100% honest. And then I ended up running with Running for Your Life, which was like a track team within like the area I was in at the time. And just less within a year, I was able to, I guess, run on a national team and then also get a D1 scholarship to Syracuse. So it was just a crazy experience. But the way I was originally introduced was just, playing outside with the kids and stuff, just, having races. Like, I'm a really goofy person. Like, I still do that to this day. Like, everybody I'm with, like, let's just, of course, still running, still staying active. So definitely that's just kind of how it started. And then, as we invested into it, just be emotionally, spiritually, and all that. Like, yeah, I got to that point where, of course, I'm here.
So now, you kind of went over like making that transition and taking the sport seriously and then making the investment. Now, in between high school and college, Eunice, did your parents like register you for like that NSCA, some kind of like college recruiting website, or did you like load up video clips and tag different women's track
So
programs?
So I had an actual agent. So my agent was Randy Blake, that was Running for Your Life. He was my coach. So my coach, he would just use his connections because he was also a Division 1 athlete. So he used the connections from his coach and just like his networking area, and he would help me out, and like pretty much like pass on my information and whatnot, from like the current times that I had at the time. But at that time, that was after I ran national. So we waited for us to have times that were obviously like valuable and viable for these schools. And then he would disperse like my times that way just through his own network. So I was lucky to have that, that connection.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's how I did it personally. And then I don't know if you want me to go deeper into that, just like how the recruiting process goes specifically, or
Yes, actually, I know my nieces, they're twins, but they're going for like different sports. They're in
right.
11th grade, so they're kind of figuring out how to get the attention of college programs. So that would definitely be beneficial.
No, definitely. So really just networking is the key. Like even me personally, from my recruiting experiences, I don't know who else did that, but from like that grade, 12th grade, or whenever I was in that area, like I actually stayed back a semester just so I could make sure I had everything straight, with those times. Like I was really blessed. But I saved everybody's like numbers from that time. So just really
Right.
just networking is 1,000% key. So I mean, I don't know if I'd be able to. I mean, life is a little tough right now. I could sell lists if you want. But working, meeting people just naturally, and then also through other individuals is kind of how it happened for me. But of course, I guess that's a little old school. I just like to do it the natural way. I mean, that's how we met. But I guess research wise, just of course, you already know, just reaching out to people who you could more connect with. I know you talked about Ghanaian American or Ghanaian Canadians, having those people there, but people who have like that same root is it's going to connect eventually in some way. So, I mean, for your, you said nieces and nephews or daughters, I
Nieces,
can't recall nieces. Yeah, like I can speak to them.
that
Definitely.
will be much appreciated. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, as far as like making that jump, Eunice, from high school to college, I've had a few track and field student athletes on the podcast, and they all kind of had completely like different experiences when they first hit the track. What was some of your biggest adjustments and some of the things you noticed right away when you hit the track as far as making the transition from high school to the big leagues of college?
For me personally, like I said, my journey was a little bit different. It was a very quick transition where I had to grow up a lot, like I had to fit in shoes where I was like, whoa, this is a lot for me. But for me, it was definitely taking risks. So just kind of getting rid of anxiety and just absolutely taking risks. That might not work for everybody per se, but I mean, it should, of course. But really just coming every day that I came in to, like the first few years, I had a very hard time adjusting, I'll be honest, because I was still new to the sport. Like it was a lot going on. And like now I'm in a business. Like there's real money in this situation. Like this is directly attached to a lot of things that are going on with me and, whatever. Like it was a lot for somebody who was, it was a lot for me. But where I really started to see progress and where I even still see progress with me today, like in different areas and like transitioning my mentality from like the track to like different areas or back and forth is just really always taking risks. Like every day that I came to practice or every day that I just come to wherever I come, like just being my best me and like being like, I'm not leaving until something's better today. Like, so
Okay.
that's really like, that's what it had to be for me to actually start to see progress between high school, like where it's just natural and comes natural for you versus like college versus other areas where everybody's a natural playing field. Everyone's talented. What are you going to do that makes you different? Is just taking those risks and being like, what am I scared for? Like, we have one life, one time to do this. Let's
Yep.
just get it.
Make it
So,
happen.
yeah, RISKS, risk number one.
Beautiful. Gotta take risks. Chances make champions. Eunice, on your social media page, I see for your IG, it says entrepreneur, artist, fitness, and faith. Kind of break down how those elements play a part in your life.
Whew, that's a lot.
Heavy,
So as you
heavy.
can tell from me, I kind of like I'm always in different areas. Like even right now, like it's weird. Sometimes I like turn off the athlete in me. Other times I turn it back on. Like especially when you run track and a female, you have so many different sides to you. Like there's like that feminine side, there's that masculine side. Like it all comes into each. A lot going on for us. Very hyper people. I hope at least. But entrepreneurship, I'm actually a hairstylist. Both my parents are entrepreneurs too, so it's like in my
Both of
blood.
your
Like
parents, you said?
both of them, yes.
Oh,
So my father is in the insurance industry. My mom is a hairstylist also. So both of them are just go getters and just they're like I guess I'm like both of them.
oh,
But
they're
like
hustlers.
really I guess like I said, taking risks, just being kind of like on autopilot. And even right now for me, things are looking crazy. But you always just look forward to like the best things and like as an entrepreneur, just really having that push, things might not look the best in the moment. So that's definitely that part of me. Artists. So this might be a little new, but I started recording music.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, you might be like, what? But yes, I started recording music. This is honestly natural too with the networking. Like I'm not chasing anything. Like people who make music have just been falling in my midst out of nowhere, out of the sky. Let me thank God. Amen. But yeah, so I actually like even like Afro beats too. I absolutely love Afro beats. Like one of my favorite songs that I'm going to record is called Best Friend Energy. So you
Say it
know,
again.
it's called Best Friend Energy.
That's for energy.
So like it's just good vibes. Really, just that's like what I prioritize is good vibes, having fun, but also educating people in different ways that you can really like influence and impact the most. So yeah, that. But I'm definitely, I don't know if you can see, but like just my apartment, like I'm very like artistic.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, extremely artistic. Like this is really how I like express myself. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's
And
that.
and as you're speaking, since I started this podcast right at the start of the pandemic, I've been promoting my youth viewers being more than just athletes and more than just students on the flip side.
Right.
Explore your creative side, be well rounded. So as you're speaking, kind of breaking out all these elements, that pretty much falls in line with some of the things that I promote on this youth mentorship podcast. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Develop as many sides as you can.
Right. So I don't know if I interrupted you or not, but that is 100% key. At least has been for me because I mean I got injured, so it was crazy for me. And I know I so many athletes get injured, and that's how so many people commit suicide, go through depression.
Yep.
I mean, I can speak it for myself. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want to scare you or anything, but I, at some point within these past 4 months, from moving and just going through so much, was almost at that point. As a student athlete who just, you have to find yourself beyond like those corners, and not even just those corners of the sport, but like of those relationships. Like when you're in a sport for so long, like those people are your family, like you're breaking away from your family too. Like it's so much that goes into it. Or even just those systems, like the systems of being a student athlete. But what could I say? It's the most
No,
important thing ever. I've seen a lot of people go through a lot because it's such a huge part of our identities. And for me personally, I struggled a lot with that being an athlete. Like I used to hate it when people would even call me an athlete. That might sound crazy, but it's because like there's so much of me beyond these corners, as you
yeah.
can. That's just like a small part of us. Sometimes it could be some people's whole lives, but for me personally, it's just like a sliver. But yeah, definitely, it's the most important thing ever. And I feel like your life, apart from being like track personally, and or just like I guess sports, once you go beyond like high school and you really have like when it becomes a business, is it's a lifestyle. Like everything outside of the sport, like outside of the arena of practice, literally matters way more than what you do inside. Trust me. Like you have to be happy to perform well. Not happy, but like level headed and just positive, because there's just so much that goes on behind the scenes.
And
But, yeah.
thank you for sharing. I know from, I don't know if it's the same now with your generation, but um, being from a West African background, being an 80s baby, mental health was not necessarily something that was mental health awareness was not promoted in my community. I became a clinical mental health counseling student. And then I started to realize how some cultures tend to be less likely to promote mental health awareness. So I'm glad you're bringing that to the forefront for this interview.
Right, definitely, definitely. What was it with you? Like, have you had personal experiences or like had friends with those experiences? Have like,
Yes. So in Detroit, not sure if you're familiar, but Detroit is a basketball city. So there was one point in time from like the 80s to like late 90s where a lot of college programs, major college programs, built their basketball programs by recruiting out of the public high school league in Detroit. So I grew up around a lot of classmates that once the basketball side didn't turn out for the pro level, they became depressed. I would reach out to them, have them share their stories on my podcast, and 99% of them would back out because 20 years later, they're still struggling from their whole identity being tied into basketball and them not, building up other aspects of their lives, them not taking care of their mental health. Good question.
right. I mean, it's really difficult for me to speak about this because, like, it for me, a lot of it is current. Like, there's so many people around me. Like, I just literally left, so there's so many people around me who it's currently affecting. So, I mean, I guess for me, it's more so like it's hard for me to speak about this now. Like, it's something of the past, but it's more so like if we're gonna talk about this, like, what are we gonna do about it? Like, to help me, everybody else, like, what are we actually gonna do about it? Like, like I'm dead ass. Like, excuse my language, but like seriously, because it's like we can pretend for well, not pretend, but it's like with these issues, it's like people just talk about it. Raising awareness is good, but that's kind of what I've struggled with in the past too. Like when I was actually there doing stuff in the organization and stuff, raising awareness, putting so much energy into it, which energy is currency. So it's like, and nothing actually happens. You just want to make money off of it, but not actually help people.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess if we're actually gonna talk about this, like I'm just like, is this gonna be something long term? Like, what are we actually gonna do about it? Because like I said, there's some people around me, and even me myself, who went through it, who, like, what are we gonna do?
To kind of piggyback off that, I did a series called Sports Psychology on this podcast. It was different from my other episodes because I put together kind of like takes from Field Gatlin. She runs track at Texas Tech. Leah Miller, Baylor, I believe Olympics as well. Tiana Bartoletta, she just changed her name. Olympics as well. Brittany Reese, Olympics as well. And then like 4 other student athletes. And I had them kind of share what they had tried as far as self-care, what they did to work on like their mental health, just to kind of share with student athletes some ideas to try. Because me, I have a military background. I went to the Marine Corps, came back. I found more help as far as becoming a mental health counselor student, learning more about mental health, trying different techniques to deal with anxiety and depression. With the student athletes, having them on the show kind of helped other student athletes who could better relate to their field. Bring not just bring awareness like cliche, but to have different techniques. For example, one student athlete, Phil Gatlin, she made a conscious effort to have roommates that are not student athletes. She said that she had realized that her first couple years at Texas Tech, being around the constant thought of track and field was starting to give her anxiety. So when she switched around her roommates, she made sure that none of them were athletes at all. She didn't want anything to do with sports at home. Whereas you had another athlete, Lexa Ortega at Pepperdine, she said that she actually used the sports psychologist that the team provided and actually went through, the clinical side. So have you tried anything that you could say, okay, maybe this is making a difference or not?
That's so funny because definitely in my own life, I could see like the difference between being surrounded by people who are just like on the team or who are not. Most of my friends, the people who I'm currently friends with, are actually not on my team. Like
Oh,
everybody from college, those are not everybody, but for the most part, they're not my teammates. The ones that I'm currently still connected with were not my
okay.
teammates. So that's just very interesting right there. I definitely agree with her right there. What's her name again?
So her name is Field
Yeah,
Gatlin,
Gil
Texas Tech.
Gatway. Cool. Definitely agree. When I was roommates with my teammate, it was I'm somebody who tells the truth, okay?
Hey,
It
we keep it real out here, yeah.
was all good. It was good on my end, but let's just keep it sealed over there. But yeah, definitely it's not smart, obviously. And I mean, I feel like you can also bring that back to just like I guess communities in general, or just like female like relationships, or just communities in general, where there's always like sometimes a crab in the barrel mentality. Sometimes I can compare it to that,
Okay.
but it definitely does build a lot of energy where like you can definitely avoid that once you can like learn yourself and see different people for different sides. And even me being a hairstylist at predominantly white institution, like I learned so much from the Black community, from the people who are like the spunky people to the people who are the rappers, to the people who are the artists, the people who are like on the track teams, the football teams. Like I always call myself like the HBCU of Syracuse, because like as the hairstylist, you meet all the Black people, and it's a lot
Uh-huh.
of so that definitely does shape your identity so much, apart from like being with sports. And I definitely encourage that for people. And I know they brainwash you to think like, it's just sports that you can do. And honestly, sometimes I do feel that way. Like I know I'm 100%, like I do feel like some things were robbed from me personally. I don't even know how deep I want to go into that. We can speak about this off camera when it's not recording. But I definitely know that like certain things do happen where they convince you that like that's the only thing that you can do. But really, like just taking care of yourself to find that other stuff does definitely help a lot. I mean, you take care of yourself, I know health as well, so it'll transfer eventually.
And as we continue to explore different topics, um, if you are coming up with a social justice cause that you wanted to like go beyond like the cliche, put a bunch of hashtags and post like a little quote from uh Pinterest or Pinterest, if you actually wanted to work on a social justice cause, what would that be and why?
So we actually already created a social justice cause 2020, when of course the whole things that happened with George Floyd. We created QSDSAB, so Syracuse Diverse Inclusive Student Athlete Board. And that was just for us to actually speak up, because as a student athlete, I'm pretty sure you can quite agree sometimes, or if you've spoken to some, like a lot of the time it's difficult for us to speak about what we're going through, you know, just because it kind of makes you think like you gotta always be happy or keep this image sometimes. So definitely like we created that to build a community among us, for us to be able to understand each other away from the sports, for us to be able to like really build relationships with each other away from like different arenas. So definitely it would be that, because even me myself, like I put so much into that. I was the head secretary, then the co-president, and pretty much created the whole social media page. So I'm so connected to it, and it's still affecting my life today, you know. And like I said, so many of my like friends and network around me also, like I see like there's just something that's off. There's a lot that I feel like we are owed that we have not received in the past, especially with the NIL law coming down. It's like, it's great, it's amazing, but this is still affecting so many people from before it happened. Even me as an international student athlete, that law did not apply to me. It's like, I'm like, when you grow
Wow.
up and you realize how much money they made off of you, it's like, yo, this is crazy. This is crazy. Like, and I work for everything myself. Like, and it's like I'm blessed still, but it's like, whew, like, how do you speak up about this when you don't have like you don't know who to speak up to? Like those same people that I want to reach out to for resources are, I'm not gonna say against me, but like who they're gonna choose, you know? So yeah, definitely that. Like I said, that's why I asked you. I want to speak about this, like possibly talk about this long term, kind of see what we can do, because like I said, this is current, not just something of the past.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely fluid. It's a bit off topic, but as I'm thinking about like fashion, I'm thinking about like college sports, not just track and field, but I had a guest on the show. She was from Bermuda, and she's a fashion designer out in Bermuda. She comes to Atlanta, Georgia, like once or twice a year to kind of promote her brand. And she brought something to my attention that it just dawned on me as she was talking. She was talking about how people of color are, ginormous consumers of a lot of European brands, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, the whole 9 yards, but we never thought to come up with our own, put a lot into coming up with our own. Like, for example, she had mentioned for like the sprinters in the Olympics. How about like maybe some kente cloth patterns, like added to their outfits? As far as you and your fashion, what influences your level of creativity when you're putting something together?
For me, that's literally how I talk. Like, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna back this up to a quick story because, whew, like I said, it's been a lot. But I actually just started working just 2 weeks ago, and now I don't work with them anymore. I work with Ford Creative. It's a creative and brand management agency, and there was a guy there. He is a CEO there, and he told me like I couldn't wear my like the shirt I was wearing,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, no disrespect. It's like I get it. I'm gonna follow the rules or whatever, but like when you're somebody who speaks up to your clothing, like that's like
Oh.
like what? Like, is this okay? Is this normal? Like, I don't know. And especially as a black woman, I don't know if other black women can relate or if it's just me, but like I feel like there's so many things that like happen to your people say that they don't realize how much it affects you long term. With my fashion specifically, what influences me is speaking up. Like I said, a lot of my favorite shirts, like they always have sayings on it, whether it's like spiritual, like they'll say like angel, or whether it's like racism. Like that's one of my friend's clothing brands. He started a clothing brand during 2020 also, funny enough. It says racism on it, standing for end racism. And on the back it says, underneath the skin, we're all brothers and sisters. Yeah, I'll send you a picture of it.
Hmm.
Absolutely
Okay.
amazing.
And how is it spelled, the e-racism?
Pardon me?
How is it spelled, the e-racism?
Just like circle racism.
Okay. Okay.
RAISM SICISM.
Yep.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Go
Got
ahead.
you. Not me like visualizing it, but yes. And then with my own brand that I'm looking to start, it's like a bodysuit brand. So I'll show you. I'll send you like videos too. But it's
Please
like
do.
I love kind of. I'm not gonna say I love to be contradictory, but like I love to just be me. Like Just the whole idea of like, yes, like having faith, but also like I'm still gonna wear tight clothing. I'm still gonna be me. Like I'm still gonna pop out and, you know, be stylish. So
Self-expression.
exactly. So just like those tight, like it's like tight clothing, but the idea is still like sending out a message and a positive message like that. So yeah, definitely that. Just and trying new things. Fashion definitely has helped me try new things too. Like our like yellow heels with like a brown suit, which doesn't make sense, but it makes sense because I made it make sense.
Okay.
I know that was very like, but yes. So definitely just speaking up, trying new things, and taking risks. Like I said, it always comes back to that. So yeah. What inspires your fashion? Do you like put a lot of thought into what you wear?
So with me, I think it was my Ashanti side growing up in Detroit. So Detroit is a fashion is not New York City, not LA. Detroit is the real fashion mecca. We
Right.
do the Gator shoes. We do the Cartier frames, which like designer frames with like white buffalo horns, dating all the way back to the Motown era. So Detroit was always trendsetter. So growing up in Detroit, I had the influence of like my Ashanti side. I always tended to wear brighter colors. That's why when Coogee sweaters were out during my era, I was rocking Coogee sweaters. Coogee this, Coogee that. When I went to a predominantly white college, you know, people used to come up, people who were brave enough, be like, hey, Gerard, you really like bright colors. And I say, yeah, I do, Abe.
Crying. That's so funny. Yeah. It's so funny because I think I did like a project one time on just like black clothing, like old school clothing, and Coogee was definitely that. Like I learned a lot about that, and it was so cool. Like I'm about to go get me a Coogee sweater just cause.
Can't go wrong with Coogee sweater. Now, I want to give a quick plug. It's really relevant to what you're saying about self-expression. I want to give a quick shout out, and I actually hope to connect the two of you one of these days. Ajima Cole, her parents were Sierra Leonean immigrants to Los Angeles, California. Um, Ajima Cole, she was a runway model at first. She experienced a lot of discrimination on the runway. One fashion entity actually said that her thighs were too thick and she was too curvy for the runway. In other words, basically, we don't want your Nubian behind on the runway. But she pushed past that, kind of paved her own lane. She's also an actress now. She does stunts. She does the whole 9 yards. But she's very big on fashion as well. I would love to connect the two of you one of these days. If you ever get your clothing line together, I'm sure she would love to, put it out there. Maybe put some of it on in some of her movies because she also produces films as well too. So I had to put that quick plug in there too.
Wow, that sounds good. That sounds great. And so back to because I know you were talking about those major brands, and I can't remember the exact name that you mentioned, but you were talking about those major brands compared to like, us creating our own and, being more creative and, actually profiting off of what we do. So just going back to that, I just wanted to kind of talk about my own personal experience because like I said, just I mean, instead of us being, used by those brands, promoting those brands, those major consumers, like kind of wanting to like look and change the narrative and actually be those ones producing those. Like I said, a lot of my friends own clothing brands. And I don't know, like if I could send you links or anything, but they're really out here and they're doing amazing. Like one of my friends, he has a brand, excuse my language, but like I said, we're very expressive and creative, but we don't care what people say. But his brand is called It Happens. And it's absolutely amazing. I'll send you like pictures and stuff, but his whole brand is the idea of, like shit literally happens in life, but you just gotta push on and keep it moving. But he's also another Black entrepreneur. So I don't know. I just wanted to, kind of go back to that and just, hopefully.
Because at the end of the day, we're to the point, people of color are to the point where we're beyond like cliches or just speaking on something. Now it's time for the action phase.
Right.
You putting our resources together, actually bringing things into fruition. So
Right.
With that being said, I'm definitely gonna connect you with my nieces. They could definitely use your mentorship. Um, do you have any social media outlets that you wanna put out as we wrap it up? Because I still have one last piece that I do with all my podcast guests.
Yes, of course. So my main page is, well, my Instagram is my favorite. You want me to send a link, or would you like me to like just say it out loud?
Say it out loud and then just say it out loud.
All right. So it's just my name. So Eunice, EUNICE underscore. Yes, on Instagram. And then there's also my hair page, because I love my hair page. It's the hair therapist, the hair dot therapist. So the hair dot HAIRAPIST.
I like the
Hair dot,
handle on that. It said the hair therapist.
yes, that's my hair page. And then my main page is Eunice, EUNICEE underscore B.
Excellent. And one final piece. This one always stumps our guest, or almost always. If you were coming up with a book about your life story thus far, what would that title be?
Lord.
Put you on the spot.
Woo. Um, Miss Resilient.
It's
Period.
resilient.
Yes, because there's been a lot. Like I know there's a lot of people, or just like I said, I don't know if people can relate. They don't really talk about a lot of things that happen out of the open, but you fight a lot of stuff in the background and still show up and try to, fight as much as you can. So definitely that. And like I said, it's been a lot of ups and downs, but I literally just laugh now, cry later, and keep it going. So definitely that, resilient.
Excellent, excellent. Eunice, I want to say Midasi. I want to say thank you, and Chui. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule and literally continue to do what you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm really glad I got to meet you. And I understand Tree, by the way. We could talk a little bit about that too.
Okay, okay.
I definitely thank you. That's
Thank
it.
you. Continue blessings.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.